When you have bars in the sky, onboard showers, and award-winning in-flight entertainment, it's no surprise that Emirates was recently named the best airline in the world. We fly you to over 140 destinations, and with partners across the globe, we connect you to another 1,700 cities across 6 continents. So when we say we're also the largest international airline, what we really mean is, if you're going there, so are we. Book now on Emirates.com. Fly Emirates. Fly better.
I'm alpine skier Michaela Schifrin. I've won the most World Cup ski races in history. But what does success mean to me? Success means discipline. It's teamwork. It's the drive and passion inside of us that comes before all recognition. And it's why Stifel is one of the fastest growing global wealth management firms in the country. If you're looking for success, surround yourself with the people who will get you there.
At Stifel, we invest everything into our advisors so they can invest everything into their clients. That means direct access to one of the industry's largest equity research franchises and a leading middle market investment bank. And it's why Stifel has won the J.D. Power Award for Employee Advisor Satisfaction 2 years in a row.
If you're an advisor or investor, choose Stifel.
Where success meets success. Stifel Nicholas & Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE. For J.D. Power 2024 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Compensation provided for using, not obtaining the award.
Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
Good morning, I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moskow. Here are the stories we're following today.
President Trump has made good on a promise of sweeping levies on China and North American allies. As of midnight, most goods from Canada and Mexico now face a 25% charge, while the tariff on Chinese goods has been doubled to 20%. In comments heard live on Bloomberg Radio, President Trump said the tariffs will help bring manufacturing back to the U.S.
I would just say this to people in Canada or Mexico: if they're going to build car plants, the people that are doing them are much better off building here because we have the market. We're the market where they sell the most.
President Trump says there was no room left to reach a deal with Canada and Mexico as he hopes to force them to address fentanyl flows into the U.S.
Vast amounts of fentanyl have poured into our country from Mexico. And as you know, also from China, where it goes to Mexico and goes to Canada. And China also had an additional 10, so it's 10 plus 10. And it comes in from Canada and it comes in from Mexico.
And President Trump added the tariffs will be exciting for U.S. automakers. The administration has delayed the removal of a so-called de minimis exemption for now. That means Canada and Mexico can continue shipping low-cost goods over the border without a tariff.
Well, Nathan, Trump's move has prompted a swift retaliation from Canada and China. Canada has imposed phased levels on $107 billion worth of U.S. goods, while China imposed tariffs as high as 15%, mainly on agricultural shipments. Meanwhile, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said her government would await for the tariffs to go into effect before reacting, but they are ready to respond. Canadian Foreign Minister Melanie Joly spoke before the tariffs were put into place.
We know that this is an existential threat to us, and there are thousands of jobs in Canada at stake. Now, we've done the work. We are ready should the U.S. decide to launch their trade war.
Canadian Foreign Minister Melanie Joly said her government was ready to go ahead with retaliatory duties.
Karen, President Trump also announced he's imposing tariffs on external agricultural products on April 2nd. He didn't provide detail on which products would be affected or if there'd be any exemptions. The U.S. agriculture trade deficit is projected to hit a record $49 billion this year.
Well, Nathan, all this has sparked a bearish mood across markets. Asian shares sold off, and the S&P 500 suffered its worst drop of the year. Joe Livornia was chief economist at the White House National Economic Council during President Trump's first term. He told Bloomberg's Balance of Power the markets might have not priced in Trump's move.
The markets also, I think, were not believing the president was serious with these tariffs. So today might just reflect the fact that for much, I think, of this year, there was thoughts that they would actually never be implemented or be watered down. So I think today was really a reality check for many investors.
Former Trump official Joe Livornia notes that Wall Street's so-called fear gauge, the VIX, hit its highest level since December.
And tonight, Karen, many are going to be watching as President Trump addresses Congress for the first time in his second term. Bloomberg's Amy Morris is in Washington with a preview.
Since his re-election, President Trump has blazed across the federal government, dismantling norms and traditions and parts of the government itself, firing thousands of federal workers, closing agencies, and positioning the U.S. closer to Russia. All issues that may overshadow his address to Congress. The White House says President Trump will also discuss his economic agenda. In Washington, Amy Morris, Bloomberg Radio.
Amy, thank you. And for full coverage of the president's address to a joint session of Congress, stay with Bloomberg for a special edition of Balance of Power with Joe Matthew and Kaylee Lyons. It starts at 8 p.m. Wall Street time on Bloomberg Radio, Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Podcasts page on YouTube.
Coast to coast on Bloomberg Radio, nationwide on Sirius XM, and around the world on Bloomberg.com and the Bloomberg Business app. This is Bloomberg Daybreak.
Good morning. I'm Nathan Hager. The trade war is on. President Donald Trump has made good on threats to impose 25% tariffs on most imports from Canada and Mexico and to double the levy on all Chinese goods to 20%. The president says it's about stopping illegal immigration and drug flows and boosting U.S. manufacturing.
They can't come in and steal our money and steal our jobs and take our factories and take our businesses and expect not to be punished. And they're being punished by tariffs.
President Trump spoke there at a White House news conference heard live on Bloomberg Radio. This morning, we are joined by Bloomberg News global trade editor Brendan Murray. And Brendan, could we see trade flows upended dramatically following this first major salvo in what looks like a new trade war? Good morning.
Morning. Yeah, it could happen fairly quickly. Now, we haven't heard the retaliation yet from Mexico. That will be something to watch today and tomorrow. Mexico is, of course, a big supplier of food products and consumer electronics and automobiles, and so we'll see how a lot of the food products are perishable too. So you can't really stick those in a warehouse for very long. So we'll see how the trade flows play out here, but it seems that all three sides are kind of talking a big talk right now about how tough they're going to be on their retaliation. There's even a Canadian politician who's saying we're going to cut off your electricity supply from our province to into the U.S. So we'll see how you like that. So it's getting I wouldn't call it that the tone isn't very sharp just yet, but both sides are kind of sharpening up the rhetoric, and we'll see if this is a short run situation or something that turns into a more prolonged trade war that starts to hit the economy.
Well, as we start to see these rhetorical knives get sharpened here, Brendan, we've heard Canada announce phased-in tariffs on $107 billion in U.S. goods. China with 15% tariffs mainly on U.S. agriculture. What kind of impact could that have on the U.S. economy?
So China's retaliation that they announced just a few hours ago was fairly reserved. It was on, a tiny fraction of the goods that China imports from the U.S., but more symbolic than anything, they targeted agricultural products. U.S. farmers and U.S. farmers for years have tried to develop markets in China and to increase all the soybeans and all the wheat and crops that they ship overseas. China has been the big market for those. At the moment, guess who's having a bumper harvest? Brazil. So if China says, look, we're going to slap tariffs on American agricultural products, the message is we've got somewhere else to buy from. So American farmers, would be getting nervous about this. And I think that's why one of the reasons why you saw Trump post on social media yesterday something about farmers are going to do great because we're going to put tariffs on all food imports, and so American farmers are going to do great. So a bit of preemptive reassurance there, I think. Maybe the President Trump anticipating that China would come back and retaliate against, the heartland of America.
Only about 30 seconds left, Brendan. What does this mean for the existing U.S. trade deal with Canada and Mexico? And is the door still open to a trade deal with China?
Well, there's an interesting role that trade deal, the USMCA, previously NAFTA, plays into this. That's supposed to be renegotiated in 2026. This was the deal that Trump renegotiated in his first term. It's up for renegotiation in 2026, and so perhaps what the strategy here is to put Mexico and Canada on the back feet, hit them with these tariffs, drive them to an early renegotiation in more favorable terms to the U.S. That's one way some folks are speculating this could play out. That this is really just kind of a flurry of things that the U.S. could do to sort of enter those negotiations in the strongest position possible.
This is Bloomberg Daybreak, your morning podcast on the stories making news from Wall Street to Washington and beyond.
Look for us on your podcast feed by 6 a.m. Eastern each morning on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else you listen.
You can also listen live each morning starting at 5 a.m. Wall Street time on Bloomberg 1130 in New York, Bloomberg 99.1 in Washington, Bloomberg 92.9 in Boston, and nationwide on Sirius XM Channel 121.
Plus, listen coast to coast on the Bloomberg Business app, now with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto interfaces.
And don't forget to subscribe to Bloomberg News Now. It's the latest news whenever you want it, in 5 minutes or less. Search Bloomberg News Now on your favorite podcast platform to stay informed all day long. I'm Karen Moskow.
And I'm Nathan Hager. Join us again tomorrow morning for all the news you need to start your day right here on Bloomberg Daybreak.
Join us in New York or via livestream on May 13th for Bloomberg's Winning the Innovation Game, Modernizing IT Without Disruption event and networking reception. This event will gather executives to share experiences and provide insights into strategies for implementing groundbreaking AI, cybersecurity, and data management technologies that will transform your workplace. This program is proudly sponsored by Rocket Software. Register at BloombergLive.com/innovation.